Get ready. Hold tight. It's
Hold on to
happening.
your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit old for you, but
With that deep into Danny Lowe, please don't clip that.
Been truly horrific having me this season away from home.
I want to go.
Anyone would think that we rehearse this, and I guarantee that we haven't.
How poor do we have to be before it's happening? How much blood from this stone do we have to get?
For Wednesday Week!
Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to the Wednesday Week podcast. And this is obviously our little spin-off that we do where we have a chat to our rivals, and our rivals will be on Saturday, will be Preston North End, coming over the Pennines to come and see us. And I'd like to welcome Ollie from the Butter Pie podcast. Brilliant name, that, mate. Fantastic. What made you choose that?
I think it was something unique. I mean, I can't take much credit for it, but I think we wanted something unique to Preston. Yeah, we looked at potentially going down the Invincibles way, but one lad came out and said, you know what, why don't we just name it the Butter Pie? You know, Butter Pie is a staple to Preston. You don't find it anywhere in the world. Why not call us that? You know, it'll stand out a bit. And we stuck by it. There's been many deliberations on should we change the name, but it's stuck. And here we are, a football podcast named after a pie.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Well, welcome to, and I've got to do this introduction because if I don't, Dan Fudge will shoot me. And welcome to Hello from the other. It never gets old, that, mate. Never gets old. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Mate.
Thank you.
welcome. So, it's a hour and a half, 2 hour journey over the Pennines for you guys on Saturday.
Yeah.
A couple of questions for you, Ollie. One, M62 or Woodhead, and two, 12:30 kickoffs. How do you feel about those?
Well, the last times that I've been over to Hillsborough, it was the M62 job. 12:30 kickoff. I don't actually mind. I don't mind it because I'd be a bit peeved if it was like a 12:30 game and it wasn't within the area of where you can get to Sheffield from Preston, like an hour and a half or so. If it was somewhere like Reading, then I'd be peeved. But yeah, don't mind down half 12. I don't mind it at all. But yeah, I always stick to the motorways unless there's a crash and then you're in the Dales then. So yeah.
We played Blackpool in the cup a few months ago, and at the same time Barnsley were playing Man United in the cup.
Yeah.
And I think I can't remember if it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and they shut the 62 and then put roadworks on the Woodhead. So that was nice, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that'd have been good.
Yeah, it was really good, really good. Anyway, enough about driving and enough about 12:30 kickoffs because I'm an old man and I like a 3 o'clock kickoff. Thank you very much. To 12:30s you can stick in the bin. So, Preston North End, mate. Now, normally, Sheffield Wednesday have got a monopoly on really, really dodgy starts to the season where we have managers leave and go to Newcastle United, or we have managers get the sack and we just don't know what's happening, and then we just hire an unknown person from Spain. Now, you've gone and try and trump this season, haven't you?
Yeah, we've had a bit of a blinder, really, haven't we?
Yeah, because what was it? You play our neighbours, and then Ryan Lowe just disappears, gets the sack. What went on there?
Yeah, well, to start it off bluntly, the end of last season was a disgrace. I think we went about 5 or 6 games without even scoring, obviously losing all of them, and we were in a position where you could push for playoffs, but the team and the manager, it kind of just fell apart. And then once it all starts, once one piece of the Jenga falls out, it all comes crashing down. I thought he should have been sacked over the summer. It didn't happen, so I think it was a bit of a waiting game in terms of Ryan Lowe just waiting. Probably waiting just to get the sack from North End. I don't think it would have gone past this stage if he wasn't just to leave on his own accord, if he was to get sacked. but I mean, no one's ever going to expect a manager to walk out after the first game of the season after being backed in the summer. But, this is Preston North End we're talking about. Yeah, I think it was a bit more the same, the game against, obviously, Sheffield United. And the fans and the manager, it just came to blows. And I think once you're at that stage, it's a bit unrepairable. Yeah. And, you've got to have fans on side, which luckily we've now got with the management. But obviously, not what I was expecting in the slightest.
So did you go, other than Ryan Lowe, the dislike for him, did you go into the start of the season feeling positive? What were your feelings going into the season?
I think it was probably more the same under Ryan Lowe, where you don't feel like you're slightly progressing. You just survive in there. And it's felt like that for quite some time at North End, where I don't think there's been any real worry about relegation in previous years. There's not been any optimism in terms of, trying to get to playoffs. We're just there and we're living season to season. It's starting to get really tedious as North End fans. I mean, I'm still quite a young North End fan compared to others, so I dread to feel what they're thinking if I'm feeling like this. But yeah, it's very season to season, and I felt like a lot of that was under Lowe and it was reflective. So under Lowe, we'll probably be in the same boat. We'd probably still be hampering around. Just once you don't move and once you stick and get to your highest potential, there's only one way you're going to be going, and that's down. And I think that started under Ryan Lowe at the end of the last season. So here we are. Very season to season, very positive. But yeah, it's what we come to expect.
It's funny, isn't it? Because as a Wednesday fan, when you drop into the Premiership, and this is no disrespect to yourselves, is that you look at the teams that are in there, and Preston, Blackburn now, obviously one of your rivals, QPR, etc. They're the stalwarts of the Championship, and we've flirted with League One, Championship, League One, tried to get into the Premier League, didn't happen. And the constant there has been Preston North End. It's always been that trip to see you guys. You've been there, 2005 was it when you last got promoted to the Championship?
2015 we went down under pretty much Darren Ferguson was manager of North End at the time, got the sack, and then obviously Big Fergie removed all the loan players that were on loan. So there was like 4 players that went back, ended up going down, and then we got promoted 2014-15 season. So we've always been here, we're kind of around there. Obviously there was a bit of a drop in the early teens, but we're now back where we notoriously belong, in our 12th to 16th home in the Championship.
Yeah, well, if you look at how we performed last season, we would have cried out for sort of 15, 16 in the league. But yeah, last season for us was a roller coaster, let's say, and I'm sure you probably looked from the sides and saw us there probably. By Christmas, I think we were the team that were guaranteed to be relegated, and then on the last day of the season, we stayed up. And the funny thing is, this season, everybody's saying, "Oh, you're definitely mid-table," and my friends say, "I'll be happy with mid-table," but it's lacking that sort of what's going to happen Saturday sort of thing. And are we going to get out of it? We've had 2 tumultuous seasons of getting out through the playoffs, and then this season seems a little bit not quite. It's quite good for the heart, thank God. So maybe for us, I think we'd be happy if we were sort of mid-table. But I understand what you're saying, and I understand because you have flirted with the playoffs, haven't you? And it's a difficult one. So in regards to if you were writing a school report for PNE this season, what would your current progress? We're coming up to Christmas. How would you assess so far how you've got on?
D- maybe. Yeah, it's been a bit of a stinker start to the season. Picked up in the last couple of games. obviously we've not been getting wins, but we've been picking up some decent draws here there. Obviously at the weekend as well, getting a 1-1 draw against West Brom, which I thought was a good point. Probably could have gone on to win. It's just been a bit of a lull. I think obviously the start was terrible, and then obviously you have an assistant coming in, Mike Marsh, going to Swansea, getting beat 3-0, and then him leaving straight afterwards as well. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Wednesday fans know about how much of a roller coaster their championship seasons have been. I think North End's obviously it's just starting. I think we're crawling to the January transfer window to get some defensive recruits, which should have been sorted in the summer. I've mentioned that so many times on our podcast, and I think obviously we've mentioned the open letter before we're recording. That's a big staple on it is recruitment, and so we're sleepwalking. We're just trying to grind away until January, and then hopefully, as we say, the owners kind of crap themselves and end up putting some money in so we don't get relegated.
So I was looking at where you are on the table. Was it 18 through 17 points?
Yeah.
3 wins, 9 draws. And if you go through, there's been a lot of draws, hasn't there? A lot of draws.
Yeah. And it kind of feels like, in some forms, the start to last season, because last season under Ryan Lowe, we went on this crazy streak where it was I think it was 8 or 9 games unbeaten, but 6 draws, and they're 0-0, and we didn't concede. But obviously now we're conceding no tomorrow. I think we've conceded 3 or more goals under Hecky, which obviously isn't the greatest in the world. But yeah, it's North End all over. It's just the more you think about it, the more unbelievable it gets. That's why I try not to think about it too much.
I'm not feeling any positivity at all here, Ollie.
You're not going to get much.
Well, trust me, mate. Whenever a team comes down and it's heels to Hillsborough, Charity FC, or otherwise known as Sheffield Wednesday, will lay it on a plate for you. So, we have been known. If you've got a record, if you're constantly drawing, we have got a record to roll over, let you tickle our belly, and you can score as many as you like.
Well, I always have terrible memories of going to Hillsborough. I remember going there. Jermaine Beckford and Owen Doyle up top for us both get sent off for punching each other, which was brilliant.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Then another one, notorious one, was I can't remember the score. I think it could have been 2-0 or something to Wednesday, but we had Ben Pearson sent off for the first half about 25 minutes in near Christmas.
Yeah.
That was another one ruined. And then what was it? Andy Newhugh scored one of the best goals I've seen live, which that's another one.
He took it from the corner flag and literally ran round. This is a guy who couldn't hit a barn door from 20 places.
And he scored one of the best goals I've seen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I can't remember the last season or so. I think it was 1-0 Liam Lindsay, was it?
I think it was. Yes, it was. It was towards the start of the season.
Yeah.
And I actually thought you looked really handy at the start of the season. I thought it was one of the best teams we played.
Yeah.
And we were lucky at 1. I think we were lucky at 1, to be honest.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, and then I think we beat you at your place, didn't we?
It's not a shock.
But we had a man sent off. But yeah, I think George Byers got sent off.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca Welch was the referee at the time, and she had a great first half and an absolutely shocking second half, which seemed to be sort of her CV, to be honest, at the time when she was refereeing. So trust me, mate. Wednesday have a knack of, we've had teams come to Hillsborough, haven't won away all season, and then stonkers 6-2, which would be in Watford, but and of which wasn't in our heads it definitely wasn't a 6-2, but on paper it was a 6-2.
Yeah.
So it's those sort of things. So Heckingbottom, obviously we've got he's an ex-player of ours. Won playoff final with Wednesday back in the day. Recently managed our neighbours, and I think quite a few United fans felt he was harshly done to when he got the sack. And obviously, Chris Wilder came in and made a massive change to the United, and they went down, breaking every record in number of goals conceded and points lost. So he didn't make much of a choice. What's your thoughts on Hecky? What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I like him. He seems to have come with fresh ideas. Obviously, right now there's not a lot he can really change to get out of the tune. It's not his team really. He's come out in the press recently saying he wants to play with wingers, which is good because we've spent almost our record signing on Jeppe Ockels, a £1.7 million winger who came in. Ryan Lowe wanted him, left on the Sunday. Jeppe Ockels signed on the Monday. So, yeah, a good one. And one to ponder on for Northend fans still, including the hierarchy about what the heck they're doing. But yeah, I really like him and Stuart McCall. You can tell that they know what they're doing. He's done very well with what he's got so far, and I feel like you can see little intricate, types of play within our system so far that you can see. Yeah, if he gets the players that he's able to get, if he gets defensive recruits, we could become a really good championship team, and hopefully, start pushing towards, maybe getting into that final playoff spot. Obviously, not this season. We're far from it. But yeah, you can see him wanting to play out from the back, wanting to keep more of the ball. Wanting his midfield and attackers to, try and find that killer pass, try and enforce it. If it doesn't happen, so what? Whereas under Ryan Lowe and under previous managers, it's kind of like, don't lose the ball no matter what. Don't try and force it. But it's terrible to watch. But under Hecky, it's been nice. It's been a bit of a change, and he's probably the best we've looked on eye for a footballing team in quite some time.
Obviously, because he didn't have the chance to recruit.
No.
Who do you think what's needed at Preston to come in? Who do you think what's he going to bring in?
So we play with a back three, so a whole new back three, a new goalkeeper. Now you may laugh, but all our starting back three and goalkeeper are out of contract in the summer.
Right.
So that's going to be a full change. If he's wanting to play play wingers, we're going to need fullbacks. We don't have any. We have Kane Kessler-Hayden on loan from Villa, who's notoriously good. We'll then have no left backs at the club if Andrew Hughes and Keane Best don't sign on, which I don't expect them to do. So a whole new defensive changeover, a new goalkeeper, which I'll expect Woodman to leave because he wants to go back down south. And then obviously we're needing to replace them and bring in a bit more money to be able to spruce up maybe our forward line. Obviously Emil Rees is out of contract in the summer. Hopefully, I hope he does sign a new deal. But yeah, he's got quite some overturn to do because we've got quite a lot of players out of contract, which ultimately, may see as a good thing. He can bring in a couple of his players, but when you've got a transfer kitty that's not notoriously large at North End, and you're having to replace, you're looking on probably 5 first teamers. In the starting 11 alone, it's going to be a real job and on a real tight budget. So recruitment's massive. That's what we've gone on in the open letter about, especially the fact that we've spent £1.7 million player on a winger when we don't play with wingers. Hopefully that'll come to fruition when we actually can play with wingers next season. But for this season, It was a bit of a silly buy. But yeah, that's where we're at. Hecky's got a big job on his hands, but I have every faith that he's going to do it. He seems very knowledgeable about the game. He knows what he wants, and I think he'll get it as long as he's rightly backed, which is obviously the main.
You've got to be a good wheeler and dealer in this league, haven't you? Because we went through the same. I mean, getting relegated a few years ago, obviously on the back of financial fair play and having points deducted, which didn't help. we took on a lot of journeymen, let's say, in the first season with Darren Moore in League One, all on short contracts, and we missed out. We lost in the playoffs, semi-finals to Sunderland, and then all of a sudden we had to rebuild again, and it was almost like trying to start a new team. 12, 13 new players, and luckily Darren Moore, even though again we had to go to the playoff final to beat Barnsley, we were coasting against Portsmouth and Ipswich, and then all of a sudden we went to Forest Green and shit the bed, and then that was it for many games afterwards. And eventually I think when you win the playoffs, everybody goes, that's the best way to go up.
Oh, it's
because
not.
But it's not. I'd rather been sat at home with a cigar going, watching the playoff final rather than actually being there.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, the relief after winning it, maybe, but why have you put us through that?
Yeah.
I mean, we were the same coming up from League One. We threw it away against a relegation battling side where we could have got automatic promotion and then just got beat, and then you're thinking, but we're here. We're past it now.
Yeah, so I think I was sort of alluding to the fact that we've been there in regards to having a majority of the team contracts running out, and then you've got to be, and we've been guilty in the past of throwing contracts at players who actually weren't good enough and keeping hold of them, and then realizing afterwards that hang on a minute, it's so Heckie's got to be astute in his buy-in, because obviously, like you say, there's not a lot of money around, and like exactly the same as us. Good championship players now don't come cheap.
They don't, and we've got a couple of okay championship players that are out of contract, but it's just stalemating. Do you offer them a contract and you're not really going to progress? Like a name that I'll mention to you that obviously Wednesday fans will know is Jordan Story, who's out of contract this summer. Now, he's an okay championship defender. Is he going to let us progress to the next stage? Is he good enough on the ball? Not really, but he's an okay championship defender. Do you then offer him a contract and not need to replace him? It's a safe option. I think North End need to look past the safe option. They need to try something new. It's been dull and boring for quite some time. If you're just going to give contracts out willy-nilly, then I'll go lace up my boots. So, if you're giving contracts to players who aren't good enough, that's your sticking point.
I was absolutely gutted when Jordan Story went back to Preston, to be honest. I absolutely loved him when he was on loan at Wednesday, and I wish he'd stayed. But and it's a shame he hasn't kicked on, because I always thought he would kick on. I always think he would kick on, he would probably end up playing higher up, and he just seems to be happy playing in the Championship by the looks of it.
Well, I mean, make us an offer in January, and we'll have a nice little think about it.
Well, we fell down the route of just throwing contracts at people the other season, and there were a few people we signed who I thought, why have we re-signed them? Because they're very much the same. They stagnated, but then one in particular who I was sort of not so sure about, and the manager wasn't so sure about at the time, and basically Cisco Muniz at the time just sent him off to Dubai, was Marvin Johnson. And Marvin Johnson came back under Danny Rowell, and he's been one of our best players for the last 18 months. So it just shows you how much I know about football.
Yeah, well.
So who have we got to look out for? So on Saturday, there'll be Wednesday fans listening to this who don't know Preston North End that well. Who amongst your ranks have we got to look out for, and who's going to be the danger men playing for yourselves?
I think the majority of this game is going to be a massive midfield battle. I think whoever's going to win the game is going to rule the midfield battle. Obviously, Bannon's out for you, which is obviously going to be a big miss, which obviously is a big plus for us. Recently, Alan McCann's been superb this season. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He puts himself in front of everything. There was a tackle at the weekend where West Brom took a quick free kick, and if he didn't make a tackle, it was in the back of the net. So he's the one that you expect to be here, there, and everywhere. In the past 2 games as well, Stefan Fordarson, a signing in the summer, has come in. A big 6'2" Icelandic midfielder. He's been playing a bit deep and constructing the play. He's been a real bright spark over the past 2 games, and I expect him to start. There's quite a few actually that have started to come into good form. Sam Greenwood's obviously on loan from Leeds as well. He's our top scorer this season. He just looks like he's got a bit more of that quality. When he's on the ball, he's able to find that pass. You could say Mas Frockyar if he's coming back from his injury, which I'm the biggest praiser of Mas Frockyar. I think when he's on his game, he's one of the best creative midfielders in the Championship. There's no way he should be playing for Preston North End. So yeah, I've given you a midfield quartet there.
Right. Okay.
And then
it'd be interesting who we play with Bannon being suspended for that game, because I don't know where he probably didn't see the game against Derby on Sunday, but Bannon, other than the amazing goal he scored, was pretty poor certainly for the first 45 minutes. It's probably his worst game he played for Wednesday, because I think he's had his best season so far in a long time for us this season. So it'd be interesting to see who Danny Rowell sort of chooses to play to sort of play in his position, because we don't really have another player who is identical to him. So we've got a lad called Olaf Kabachi who we signed as a Polish guy, who I think he plays more on the wing, but I've got a feeling he has a trick up his sleeve that could be Bannon-esque. Okay. But whether he can do it for 90 minutes is another, and he doesn't seem to have favoured him recently.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm very glad that, because he seems to be like everything goes through Bannon in terms of an attacking sense, and he's a massive creative spark. So yeah, I'm buzzing. that he's not playing.
Is there anybody else you've sort of identified who plays for Wednesday you might have an eye on, obviously with Bannon being out? Because everybody always says Bannon.
Yeah, you've got a is it Masaba, the tricky winger? Yeah, I quite like Masaba as well. He seems to be a good player. I'm quite surprised that Ugbo's not really had a chance this season compared to obviously what he was like last season, where he's scoring for fun. So if he's able to get his chance and hit form, then he's going to be a real one to deal with. But I like Jamal Lowe. I do like Jamal Lowe. And I feel like Jamal Lowe's probably best when played on the shoulder of a defender. And we notoriously got the 3 slowest centre-halves in history. So he's going to be a real one to look out for, is Jamal Lowe, especially if he's able to play on the last line of the defence. I think he could cause us a lot of problems. And then obviously if Masaba's, going to be running at our defenders and pulling our central defenders, out wide, it's going to create a lot of space to get him behind. So those two are going to be probably your best threat this Saturday.
Well, Jamal scored on Sunday in his what looked like he was about to do some breaking and entering with the gloves he was wearing. So I mean, it's going to be a quandary. It'll be interesting at half 11 when the team sheet comes out to see who Danny chooses to do. But we've always had managers who didn't have a plan B, whereas Danny seems to have a plan A to Z. And I think in the games I've seen, we've played 4 or 5 different formations just to break down, which we did again on Sunday, where I think we played 3 different formations to break Derby down, of which obviously we did in the end. So it'll be an interesting conundrum with no Bannon. It will indeed. How many are you expecting to bring over? Have you sold many?
To be fair, attendances have started creeping lower and lower. Obviously, in terms of the apathy, probably at the hierarchy, in a couple of things. But to be fair, I expect North End probably to bring quite a couple. I'd be disappointed if we didn't bring over 1,000. I probably expect 1.5, but that's me being me. 12:30 kickoff over the Pennines. I expect us to bring, at least over 1,000. I'll be shocked if there isn't, but if there isn't, then it goes to show, fans are probably sticking up for what, needs to change at the club, especially in terms of the person advising it.
Just pulling at that a little bit of string there. So what is the issue behind the scenes? Is it I mean, I listened to your podcast today, and a lot of it was about trying to start of looking at investing in the infrastructure of the club to bring players through, which is a massive thing that we say at Wednesday, that there isn't enough youth that comes through that we can then, the Brentford model, let's say, and Sheffield United have always been very good at doing that, and they've got some great players coming through at the moment, which obviously is sort of over the shoulder of us. It's not exactly the best sort of thing. What in that, we mentioned the open letter, which I think was to the board, wasn't it? What was the sort of main sort of subject of that in regards to what you guys are wanting?
Pete Ridgedale to leave his position, mainly.
Right.
So, yeah, no, notorious name who obviously he's known for doing well at clubs at a level. So he's coming advising, and the open letter was kind of like, why has he got so much to do with the club? No, because obviously he's an advisor, but he's doing recruitment, he's doing etc., his finances, etc. It seems like he's doing 5 or 6 jobs, and I mean, I'm not saying that Peter Ridgedale's doing a terrible job at all. He's done an okay job for North End since Hemmings has been in, but he's a 72-year-old bloke. He can't be doing all that. And then it goes back to obviously the signing that I mentioned, Ockles. If you're spending the entire club's budget yourself, you're signing off on a player for 1.7 million when you haven't appointed another manager, not knowingly that we needed defenders. What are we doing? And we're signing some players like Ockles is 25. Forderson's a decent player, he's 26.
Mm-hmm.
So the permanent players that we're signing, they have to probably hit it off straight away if we are going to make money on them. Because no one's going to come and splurge, 5 or 6 million, especially at the championship level, 5 or 6 million on a 28-year-old. They're not.
Yeah.
So you're probably getting them past where you're going to be for resale value. And there's hardly been any, players that we've brought in that we've then gone to sell on. Like the last player I can remember was Callum Robinson and Jordan Hugo back in God knows when. So there needs to be a plan to be able to do that. Like you look at Coventry, especially, they got lucky with Gyökeres, but they've invested it in the right areas.
Yeah.
You look at Brighton, so to speak, and Brentford even, they're buying players, they're, building them on and they're selling them, which is how you create the main amount of funds for your club. Now, we don't have, we don't spend a lot of money, our owners stick to, FFP, we're putting 13 million in each year, here's your budget, have at it. And the recruitment's been naff. You've got to get a lot of bang for your buck. And fair enough, our recruitment team have found Scandinavia. There's everywhere outside of the UK, which to be fair, is done all right. But there needs to be a lot more that comes from it, not just, players that are over 25 who seem proven in the Scandinavian leagues. You need to take a chance. You need to give players a chance to improve, a chance to, gain your money. And I think Hecky's kind of alluded to that in terms of player trading, and that's how he makes his money to be able to improve his squad. But there seems to be no sign of it. No sign of change, and it seems very same old, same old. So that's what the open letter was about, I believe, obviously by the supporters group, and it had the full backing of our podcast. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I listen to the podcast, and I recommend anybody to listen to your podcast, certainly as a football fan, because it was a very passionate play for your previous one in regards to, you're fully invested and fully on board onto the future of Preston North End. And I can see so many similarities. I think we've been blessed with Danny Rule coming in, and he seems to have managed to persuade our chairman, who in the past hasn't been persuaded. But certainly persuade our chairman to invest in a very good coaching staff. And I'm hoping that we never go away from the model that's been brought in. And I'm hoping that because Heckingbottom will be used to what Sheffield United are doing, and I'll keep dropping on them because they are our neighbours, but that their ability to nurture talent and bring it through and then ultimately sell to keep them where they are, very much like Coventry City. I mean, if we talk about Coventry City, we all know in living memory they were playing at Northampton Town at Sixfields not actually that long ago.
Absolutely.
And look at them. I mean, now they're having a bit of a poor season this season, and then something's gone on with Mark Robbins that God knows what's gone on there.
But they got players. They have got the players that can get up there. So it can be done.
It can, and we as a club will be playing them for their 100th time in the cup this season of all the cup draws. Who have you guys got in the cup?
We got Charlton at home, which, to be fair, seems a good match, but it'll be a tough match, especially against Nathan Jones, because he's no mug of a manager actually.
No, he's not. No,
but yeah, hopefully we can get through to the next round. I was kind of hoping for kind of a top 6 away day, especially in round 3, because it's at the start of January, so a decent bit of money into the transfer kitty would have been there if it was a round 3. But Charlton, we should win. But whether or not we do is a different question.
So back to Saturday.
Yep.
We've danced around it. You've obviously you've one hand you're a little bit down, but on the other hand you've mentioned some really good players, and you've also I mean, going to the Hawthorns was a bloody good. Going there and getting a draw is it's not an easy place to go to. So what's your thoughts on Saturday?
I think it'll be a tough one. I don't think there'll be a lot in it, put it that way. I'll say that now, but we'll get tonked for it now. But I don't think there'll be a lot in it. I think, as I mentioned, there's going to be a big midfield battle, especially with Bannon out, who's one of Wednesday's biggest players. Obviously not in terms of size, but I think it'll be a tough game for both sides. I think we've got a couple of players back. Obviously, Freddie Woodman after his suspension, which he's been in turgid form, but I think the rest will probably do him some good because I think everyone just needs a reset. And I'm probably going to edge towards a draw, if anything. I never like to be too optimistic and predict a North End win because you always get let down. So anything above it's a positive, but. Yeah, I can't see a lot being in it. I think it's going to be a good game between two decent sides. I won't say good sides because we're not. I think it's going to be a good game between two decent sides.
Yeah, I think it needs some goals in it. We don't want it to end up as a dour 0-0, which we have had in our past, haven't we? And it could well be. Our home form's not great. Our home form's not brilliant. Away form, I'd fancy us to come to you and beat you at the end of the month, but the way we're playing away. But home form, we'll see. A draw probably will be the outcome, but I'd like us probably 2-1. We'll do something daft and you'll score, and then we'll just have to claw his way back. But the Bannon thing will be the main thing here: is who he plays instead and how that affects how we play. So, we'll see what happens on Saturday, mate. I mean, we don't know anything more than that. It's all about predictions. Ollie, thank you very much. Would you just want to give us a brief about your podcast? So if anybody wants to have a listen and just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, of course. So, obviously, any Wednesday fans listening, if obviously Wednesday are on the right side of the result, I'm sure you'd like to listen to some probably saltiness. So, obviously on all good reputable streaming sites, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And then obviously straight after the game on Twitter or X at the Butt Pie Pod.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ollie. Ollie, thanks for your time, mate. We'll see what happens on Saturday. I wish you the best of luck to a point. But I'm on the beer before and after, so I hope we beat you. Take care, mate. You take care. Cheers, buddy. Bye bye.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week. Bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some short sleep.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there for podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.